המסך עדיין בשיתוף? כן, נכון?
כן, כן, עמית. שלך בהצלחה.
יופי. אז שלום לכולם. אני באמת שמח שהצטרפתם. יש לנו בלנד מאוד מאוד מעניין. אני רואה קולגות ממחזורים עברו של הפעילות שלנו וחברים חדשים מהפעילות של הלשכה, וזה באמת הייתה המטרה בחיבור הזה, להביא את האנשים מעולמות דיגיטל והצד של הפרונט אופיס עם אנשי מערכות המידע והטכנולוגיות של הארגון. אז אני ממש אוהב לראות את הבלנד המעניין הזה. יש לנו היום מפגש מעניין מאוד. תכף אני אספר לכם קצת על בריאן למי שלא מכיר. יש לנו הזדמנות בלתי אמצעית ככה לשמוע על הספר שלו, לשאול שאלות. זה באמת דיון פתוח יחד עם בריאן. אז ככה אני עוד שנייה יעבור, יתזכר למי שלא מכיר קצת את הפעילות של המרכז מצוינות שלנו, ואני אתן ככה ליורם להגיד כמה מילות פתיחה, ונמשיך משם. אז יורם, שלך.
תודה רבה. עמית, אז כמו שבאמת אמרת, גם אני נהנה לראות את החיבור הזה ככה שקורם עור וגידים ומתפתח. אז באמת הזדמנות להגיד תודה לך ול-Advisory Board ולכל אלה שמובילים את מרכז המצוינות שחבר לתוך הלשכה. כמה מילים למי שלא מכיר, אז הלשכה לטכנולוגיות המידע היא עמותה מקצועית, ארגון מקצועי. אנחנו מקיימים 18 מרכזי מצוינות בתחומי ידע שונים, שאחד מהם זה המרכז הזה של טרנספורמציה עסקית ודיגיטל, אבל יש לנו עוד מרכזי מצוינות, אפשר לראות באתר שלנו, בתחומים שונים, בתחומי ידע שונים. יש לנו מספר פורומי מנהלים, אנחנו מקיימים מעל 100 אירועים בשנה, מקצועיים, הסמכות מקצועיות ועוד הרבה מאוד פעילויות, לא נרחיב בעניין. אני רק אומר שאנחנו יוצאים בימים הקרובים עם הפרסום של הכנס השנתי שלנו, הוועידה השנתית, ועידת ישראל לטכנולוגיות המידע, שאנחנו מתכננים שיהיה גם מסלול בתחום של טרנספורמציה עסקית ודיגיטל. נכון, עמית?
אכן כן.
אז אני מקווה שהשנה גם יהיה מסלול כזה. תעקבו, תירשמו, ועידה מאוד משמעותית, מאוד מאוד גדולה בקהילה שלנו. וכמו שעמית אמר, וכפי שראיתי את התוכנית, הולך להיות מעניין היום, אז נאחל לכם מה שנקרא מפגש פורה ומהנה, ובחזרה אליך עמית. תודה.
תודה, תודה. אז ככה ממש בקצרה, למי שפעם ראשונה מצטרף אלינו, אז באמת המרכז מצוינות במסגרת הלשכה הוקם באמת כדי להמשיך את מה שככה התחלנו לפני כמה שנים טובות. זה בעצם לעזור למנהלים מכל מיני שכבות בתוך הארגון, להוביל את התהליך הזה של להפוך ארגון לדיגיטלי עסקי. במשך שנים קראנו לזה טרנספורמציה דיגיטלית. היום זה פשוט, ראיתי איזשהו שקף לפני כמה ימים שזה כבר טרנספורמציה של הדיגיטל, זה כבר לא טרנספורמציה של הארגון, זה כבר טרנספורמציה של הדיגיטל. הדיגיטל עובר שינוי. ובאמת ככה לחבר את הקצוות של הארגון, אנשי מערכות מידע, שיווק, דיגיטל, בעצם כל מי שמוביל את השינוי הארגוני, וזה לא רק אנשי טכנולוגיה ולא רק אנשי דיגיטל כבר כמה שנים טובות. המטרות שלנו ככה מעבר לזה, גם לעזור ולהפגיש את כל המנהלים עם טכנולוגיות דיגיטליות, כל מה שקורה בפרונט ובבקאנד של הארגון וקשור לטכנולוגיות חדשניות. מן הסתם הנושא של ה-AI עוטף את כל הפעילות היום כמעט של כולם, אבל אנחנו דווקא בחלק מהמקרים רוצים להתמקד במה שנקרא השינוי העסקי סביב הטכנולוגיה ולא רק הטכנולוגיה. בריאן ידבר על זה היום הרבה אני בטוח. ככה חשיפה וחיבור בין סטארט-אפים לארגונים וגופים עסקיים ככה ברמת איך עושים את השינוי בארגון, כל נושא הפיתוח יכולות והאוריינות הדיגיטלית של עובדים שאנחנו שמים עליו הרבה שנים דגש. זהו, באמת ככה להפגיש את כל המנהלים עם השינוי הזה שארגונים עוברים וממשיכים לעבור. הפעילויות, שוב פעם, הרבה פעילויות אונליין. שנה הבאה אנחנו גם מתכננים שולחנות עגולים ומפגשים פיזיים. אני חושב שזה ממד מאוד מאוד חשוב כדי לתחזק קהילה. לדון באתגרים, מקרה בוחן ואתגרים. שאלו פה מה הכוונה שהדיגיטל עובר שינוי בצ'אט, אז אם דיברנו הרבה שנים על זה שהארגון עובר את השינוי, אז עכשיו אנחנו בשלב שבו לא רק הארגון עובר שינוי, אלא הדיגיטל עצמו, כל הכלים הדיגיטליים, כל הערוצים הדיגיטליים, כל התפיסה היא של מה זה להפעיל פעילות דיגיטלית בתוך ארגון, גם היא עצמה עוברת עכשיו שינוי לאור הכניסה המאוד מאוד מסיבית של טכנולוגיות AI. אז שינוי מאוד מאוד מעניין, ואנחנו רק בהתחלה שלו, אז אנחנו כולנו נחווה את השינוי הזה בשנים הקרובות ביתר שאת. לתחזק קהילה ושיתוף ידע, אני חושב שאחד הדברים המאוד מאוד מרכזיים שאנחנו יודעים להביא לשולחן יחד איתכם, יחד עם כל מי שמשתתף, זה באמת איזשהו מקום שבו אנחנו יכולים לחלוק, לשתף, גם אתגרים, גם הזדמנויות, כדי באמת לעזור לכולנו להריץ קדימה את הארגונים שבהם אנחנו נמצאים. וזהו, וככה לתת במה ולחשוף קולגות ומומחים בתחום שיודעים להביא לנו ערך ולייצר איזשהם תובנות מתוך כלל הפעילות שלהם. אז ככה זה המיקוד שלנו. את מי אנחנו הולכים לפגוש היום? אנחנו נפגוש היום קולגה שכבר כמה שנים טובות, א' אני עוקב אחריו, ב' ב-2017 הוא ביקר אותנו פה בארץ באחד הכנסים שעשינו, בחור מוכשר לטעמי, שוב פעם מאוד מאוד סובייקטיבי, אבל אני בטוח שיש הרבה פה חברים שראו אותו, שמעו אותו ויסכימו איתי, מאוד מאוד חד, עם מסרים ככה על השינוי ועל התרבות הארגונית והפרסונלית שכולנו עוברים, יודע לחדד ככה את הנקודות בצורה מאוד משמעותית. אני מציע לכם לעקוב אחריו, אני מציע לכם לחפש הרצאות עבר שלו ברשת, ביוטיוב יש לא מעט הרצאות. המסרים שלו הרבה מאוד פעמים עזרו לי, ואני יודע שגם לקולגות נוספים שנמצאים פה בסשן, באמת ככה לשנות דפוסי חשיבה ולהביא לשולחן, להביא להנהלה פרספקטיבה אחרת, שהרבה מאוד פעמים קשה לנו ככה כשאנחנו רוצים להניע שינויים, להניע שינוי בתרבות ארגונית, הרבה מאוד פעמים זה תהליכים קשים, מורכבים, והזווית של בריאן היא זווית מאוד מאוד מעניינת, וכמו שאמרתי, חדה, כזאת שלא הרבה יוצא לשמוע, הוא גם יודע להעביר את המסרים בצורה מאוד מאוד יפה. זה הספר השמיני שלו, היה לי העונג לקרוא את השלושה ארבעה האחרונים, האחרון בדרך, and I see that Brian is with us, right Brian?
כן.
Brian, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. So I had a little intro, mainly on your last visit a couple of years ago in Israel, and the session you gave us about digital transformation and the culture change within organizations. It was a privilege then, and it's a great honor to have you with us again today. I told him it's in Hebrew, but I think it's your 8th book, right?
Number nine.
Number nine.
But six, seven by myself.
I see. Okay, so we have on the screen a couple of them. I had the privilege of reading some of them. And that's it. So today, as I told everyone, it's a great opportunity to hear from Brian about his new book, some insights from the research he's done along the way, and to get some, a point of view about the main topics of the book. It's an open discussion. Brian will lead the session, but you're all welcome to share in the chat questions. I will pick the questions, Brian, if you're open, if you have the chat open, so you can answer. But if I can help, so I will pick the questions and I will share with you. And that's it. So everyone, I hope you'll have a great opportunity to enjoy from the session with Brian. And we will talk a little bit later about a group purchase that we are planning, or it's already underway for his book. We have a bunch of books already in Israel, So it's a great opportunity for a participant that would like to get the book, but we will speak about it after the session. I see that Omer is already have a copy of the book pre-ordered.
All right, Omar, thank you.
Great. So Brian, it's yours, and we are here to help with any questions from the audience.
Well, first, let me start by saying, Ahmed, it's wonderful to see you again. It should be actually in Tel Aviv, like last time. I very much enjoyed our time together. It's such a beautiful visit, and very much enjoyed meeting everyone. So much has happened since then. I have prepared some thoughts that I want to share with you, but I'm mostly here to answer your questions. But before we get to the questions, I'd like to share just some research and also be completely transparent with you. Since I was last in Israel, I changed my entire career. I was an analyst. I was one of the few analysts tracking emerging technologies and understanding how they were impacting behaviors and markets, both as a futurist and as a digital anthropologist. And since then, I decided to slow down a little bit, spend more time with my young daughters, not be on airplanes all the time. And as you know, we had a life-changing event in 2020. And since then, though I am now the head of global innovation at a company called ServiceNow, all of these paths have started to cross again. In my role at ServiceNow, I work with companies to assess where they are in their digital transformation, to understand now what has changed since they started investing in digital transformation, what has changed since the pandemic, what has changed since the dawn of generative AI, and how do we need to move forward differently based on the convergence of these trends. Because the most interesting thing that I've observed is that most leaders, whether they're business leaders or they're technology leaders, are looking to use all of these new trends and disruptions to get back to business as usual. And I'll explain that in a second. But I actually don't think the way forward now is digital transformation. I think the way forward is actual business transformation. And this is a massive shift in perspective, which inspired the book Mind Shift. I noticed that not just myself, but leaders that I work with have a tendency to see what's new through the lens of what they know. They tend to look at strategy and decision-making based on the playbook that they helped to write over the years. There's nothing wrong with that. It's actually worked for decades. But I actually believe that back-to-back disruptions are actually pushing us not just with challenges, but I believe new opportunities. So as I've been working with companies, I've been paying attention. I've been reverse engineering, for example, what the pandemic caused and what that had changed, from customer behaviors to employee behaviors and expectations. I wrote about it in a series of articles in a magazine called Worth. And Amit, I'll share those links with you so that we could share with the community here. But it details just how much people have changed and still are changing. I've also written a series for CIO magazine on the need for business transformation and how it's different than digital transformation. And I'll share those links too, in case you'd like to continue reading. But the most fundamental observation was something very basic. If you look at all of the years of digital transformation and you actually study where that money went, where resources went, and what actually transformed, you'll see that actually very little transformation happened in digital transformation. What we actually invested in was digitization. And again, there's nothing wrong with it. We just took the analog to the digital. And now I want you to think about where we are in an era of generative AI. We're taking the digital and we're automating it, or exploring ways to automate it. And again, there's nothing wrong with this. But what we're doing is we're perpetuating cycles of business as usual. What we're not doing is challenging our fundamental assumptions of whether or not this is the right work, whether or not these are the right processes, whether these are the right models for pick any year in the horizon. Let's say 2030, 5 years away. In 5 years, we will probably experience at least 2 to 3 great cycles of AI evolution. We will see probably greater pervasiveness of spatial and ambient computing, and we'll probably start tasting the capabilities of qubits and quantum computing. Those are radical transformations on the horizon. And we're still looking at taking 2000 and 2010 processes, models, and workflows into 2030, and those won't work in this world. And this is why I believe this is a moment for business transformation. This is my first book in 5 years. I was so inspired by all of these observations that I decided to break out of my book retirement, if you will, to really analyze what we need to do collectively as leaders, as thinkers, as mentors, as coaches, as friends, as parents. Could we continue forward just as we've always done and be successful? And I believe, sure, I'm sure we can find success and continue success at some level to a point. Just like in the United States, I had an opportunity last week to spend time with Mark Randolph, who's the co-founder of Netflix. And we talked about his stories, his experiences, his lessons when Amazon tried to acquire Netflix early on, when Blockbuster tried to acquire Netflix and didn't actually end up acquiring them. And I asked Mark, I said, let's imagine a world where in 2002, Blockbuster did acquire Netflix. I asked Mark, I said, let's hypothetically imagine, would Netflix still be here today? And he said, no. Like Blockbuster, Netflix would be gone. And it's an example of why yesterday's thinking with tomorrow's opportunities fails. In his mind, he said it was so counterintuitive that every evolution of Netflix forced them to actually shift away from their core business to what was next. And that's how they continued to survive. If you look at what traditional businesses do, we take new and put it into the core. What I'm proposing here in Mindshift is a way to see trends, to invest in the core, and to invest in what's next. In Silicon Valley, it's called jumping the curve. And you're constantly investing in what's next. It doesn't always work, but at least you have your core. But you're also not missing what's next. And that's what I call a mind shift. It's a mindset shift to allow yourself to look at whatever you might have dismissed, whatever you might have looked at as a core investment, to ask yourself, what is different? So I prepared something for you that I'll just lightly read, because this is the crux of our conversation. While technology is advancing exponentially, our mindsets, our approaches, and our leadership frameworks are not keeping pace. To thrive, leaders must ignite a new form of awareness and creativity, one that transcends traditional business principles and embraces deeper exploration of the unknown, along with a profound understanding of humanity and its evolving needs. So I'm going to stop there. What I had observed in every engagement with leaders was that cognitive biases, egos, experiences, gut, what I feel here, that is the realm of what we know. And this is where most decision-making takes place. But as any philosopher will say, that success is a poor teacher when it comes to adapting to the future. Outside of what we know is what we know we don't know. That is the parameter of our comfort zone. We operate here. What's happening since 2016, 2020, 2022, 2024 is what we don't know. We don't know. And nobody really lives here. But that's actually where we need to start asking questions. That's where we need to start exploring opportunities. That's where we need to understand potential disruptions, because it's exploring the unknown that actually brings clarity in an era of uncertainty. If you think simply about generative AI as one example, if we are automating what we digitized, what we're going to do is increase, hopefully, operational efficiency, hopefully margins, hopefully scale resources, and we're going to hopefully create a linear growth cycle. If everyone takes a profound disruptive technology like generative AI and invests in the same way, it's actually not innovation. It's a new status quo, but it feels like innovation because it's new. But if everybody's doing it, you're now on a new linear growth cycle for a new status quo. But think, if you will, what would happen if we augmented as a strategy our processes and our people with artificial intelligence to do something different? Now, this is the unknown. And so when I say something different, well, that could mean nothing. That could mean something different to each of you. But I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. Automation is doing what we did yesterday more efficiently, effectively today. Augmentation is doing what we didn't do yesterday to do something new, to create new value for tomorrow. Core business, disruptive business. So I'll give you an example, simple example. IKEA employs an artificial intelligent chatbot that's really good. It's named Billy. It's meant to deflect first-round customer service engagement. It's so effective, it deflects up to 57% of first-round engagement. Most leaders might say that's fantastic. 57% is enough for us to explore further cost-cutting opportunities because it's so effective, we can save on our headcount, as an example. But instead, what they did is they explored opportunities that the customers weren't receiving in everyday business, what the common questions that they were receiving from customers were. And what they actually uncovered was that customers had a lot of questions about essentially what is interior design for their office, for their homes, for their kitchens, their living rooms. They needed help imagining, finding solutions that worked for them. So what they did was they took these agents and they reskilled them as interior designers and started a new business. So saved money, linear, new value creation, augmented capabilities. What they introduced was a new growth curve. And I want you to think about, if you keep doing that, what you do is you're creating two growth cycles, and the delta between the two is disruption and a competitive advantage. And this is how I'm thinking about a mind shift. It is a profound change in how we perceive the world, approach challenges, and embrace opportunities. It's not just about adopting new ideas. It's about rewiring our perspectives, unlearning outdated beliefs, even challenging our own beliefs, and embracing the future, essentially embracing the unknown with childlike curiosity and wonder. And I say childlike because it removes the biases and the ego from simply reacting the way we normally would have reacted. It's key to moving from survival mode or adapting to disruptions to thriving in the future, defined by the unknown, uncertainty, and disruption. A mind shift happens when a leader realizes that the status quo is no longer good enough. That old mindsets, old strategies limit our progress.
Brian, can I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead. Finish the sentence and I'll ask the question.
Basically, it's not about reacting to disruption. It's about taking and investing in a mindset and practices, and the book teaches the practices to anticipate it. And that's a different way of business. So over to you.
Yeah, you spoke a lot now in your previous book about companies doing the same thing with new technologies. And it seems from what you are saying that using generative AI at scale to automate the same thing that we've done before, it's even a greater risk because we are taking all the old things that we have done and we are magnifying that or using technology like generative AI to continue doing at scale at what we have done before. So my first question is, what have been changed from your observation and discussion with leaders? And do you think that companies that didn't do the shift over the last couple of years will maintain this course and will use generative AI to do at bigger scale the same thing that they've done before?
Absolutely. So, I mean, when we last spoke, I had introduced this model of iteration and innovation.
Right.
And for those who weren't there, what I was breaking down, this was before generative AI, was that every technology shift, companies would embrace it into their work eventually. And the embracing of this new technology would always look like innovation because it was the act of doing something new. But when you looked at how it was deployed, it was simply taking yesterday and employing the technology to make it more efficient, scalable, etc. And so what I had introduced at the time was that actually that is iteration. Iteration is doing yesterday better. And the difference is innovation is creating new value. And the two together could create disruption, which is doing new things that make the old things obsolete. And it's a pattern of behavior that has been consistent since the Industrial Revolution. And it's worked. But generative AI is about a year away from being smarter than every human being on the planet. And when we show up, we're no longer the smartest person in the room. So now we have to think differently about how we employ these technologies to unlock new value when we know everybody else is going to use it to enhance yesterday's value. It is a mind shift that allows us to see differently. One of the fun exercises I just did, it doesn't come out until next week, but I just wrote it for Harvard Business Review as a simple example of what an iterative mindset does when you prompt generative AI and how to be more creative in your engagement with generative AI to unlock new outcomes that you never would have thought was possible, and how you can explore the unknown to train yourself to think more creatively so that you can look at iteration and innovation as a discipline.
Thanks. Great.
All right. Well, Amit, I know we don't have a lot of time left, but I want to make sure that I answer your questions, your thoughts, your observations, and anyone else here as well, to make sure we make the most of your time. I will tell you one last thing though, since some of you are going to read the book and some of you already have the book. The first half is basically getting us as individuals ready for why a mind shift. How while we might think we're creative and how we might think we're curious and how we can always imagine, I explore how we could always open ourselves more, how we can grow these soft skills, which are actually very hard human skills, in ways that help us explore the unknown and actually maximize the unknown. The second half of the book is essentially all of the disciplines I learned in my work as a futurist, as a scenario planner, and as a strategist. And I tried to simplify it down so that we can all become everyday futurists, everyday creators, everyday thinking. And last but not least, I spent time with a dear friend of mine who used to be a Disney Pixar storyboard artist, to understand the art of storytelling, like the actual art of storytelling, how you make disruption, how you make change believable and relatable so that people want to come along versus fighting back. That was the biggest step. The biggest thing that I had learned was, how do you get people to want to change? And that was that's towards the end of the book. So with that, Amit, I'll turn it over to you for a Q&A.
So when you wrote the book, who was your target audience? It was the leaders within the organization, or everyone that would like to lead a change, or you looked more on the organization itself and how the organization is doing the shift?
It's funny. My publisher asked me the same question. Who's your audience? And I had to say the truth. I had to say, initially, I thought it was leaders of the organization, but sometimes they're the problem because they're so surrounded by people who enforce the way of thinking, politics, grandstanding, everyone's personal ambitions. It creates this circle that makes it hard to see opportunities different. So it is for the leader who is looking at these times to say, what am I not thinking about? So it'll be a strategic leader, but, and here's the but. This is what excited the publisher. We know that those leaders are few and far between. So what it really is about is the people who believe that there could be a better future and want to do something about it. Whether it's they become the leader, whether they go to the leader and talk about what they know and inspire them, like through the Pixar storytelling, to see these things differently. If it's someone who thinks that I'm working in a company and I'm never going to get them to change, but I believe in the future so profoundly that I'm going to go start my own company. It is for tomorrow's leader.
Any questions from the people in the session?
יש בצ'אט, עמית, תסתכל בצ'אט.
There is a question in the chat from Ilan. If you can see it, Brian, asking the difference in mind shift between, I'm not sure I'm familiar with Noriki Kanu or his work.
I don't know about this, but I'm going to copy paste this question and respond to it. Amit, would you have the ability to get the answer to him?
Yes, I will be able to get the answer to him.
I'm here actually. So
Ilan, so you can take the question directly.
Yeah, so Kano was working on similar trajectories. One is the linear that organization wants to invest in to keep the bread and butter, and also investing in what he called the attractors, which are they have a different type of curve, but soon after being an attractor, they also join the linear. So what you want to do is to optimize the integral, the area that is formed between linear and attractors. So what are the key similarities and differences between what you're suggesting in Mindshift and Kano? And that's and that you're not familiar with Kano, so it's a bit of an unfair question.
It's okay because his model is what we call jumping the curve in Silicon Valley. So it is actually core, investing in the next, joining the two, repeat, because there's always a curve.
Right.
They used to be farther apart, and now they're closer together. And this is only going to continue. So the book, this is a great question. So the book actually doesn't address how to do that. That's the second book. I signed a contract for 3 books. The first one is this one. It's to recognize that you're not seeing or doing anything about the next sets of curves that are taking shape. And the first part is about how do you open your mind? How do you open the minds of others to see them? How do you create what I call a receiver state so that you're constantly open to seeing and appreciating the emergent trends? Not all of them are going to have an impact, but it gives you then the second half of it is how do you track, score, weigh those trends so that you're actually tracking and investing and then doubling down on the ones that are your next model. The next book is about how to do that.
Okay, so it is a great question because this book is about seeing and the practices for seeing, and now to see you the next time when you publish the next book, that's what makes it a great question. Thank you.
Yes, and if you have any ideas for the title, give me, please share them.
Any other questions? So I'll ask one last question to summarize and to get your projections or one tip for the audiences here, which most of them are leading some kind of effort within the organization to lead innovation or implement new technology. So X was definitely like a playbook for digital leaders or people that would like to lead innovation. And then you released that book that basically said, I'm not sure that people see that we need to slow down and take a little bit step back. And now Mindshift is like a preparation for a new future. So what is, if you would summarize that in a paragraph or in a short sentence, what do you think leaders need to focus on in the next couple of years to be able to lead their organization or even lead the progress of their self-improvement in the new era that's upon us?
Yeah, absolutely. A mind shift is a leadership imperative, and leadership is not a title. It's a role. It's the role that you want to play within the organization, and understanding that it's human nature to not believe that you don't have the answers. Every leader wants to believe they have the answers, or at least some type of framework to get to the answers. What I'm proposing is that those frameworks will get us to a new status quo. And there's nothing wrong with that. Again, that's going to keep our core business moving in a direction that's going to be healthy. But as we heard earlier in the question, you have to constantly connect the dots to what's next. This is I believe, the first disruption that isn't going to allow for business as usual to continue. Generative AI is going to create what I believe is an exponential company. And once we start seeing exponential companies.
Brian, I'm sorry you were muted by mistake.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
Okay. Wonderful. It's like maybe he didn't like what I was saying. But in reality, we're seeing the types of disruption that needs new types of thinking. And just as a summary, I just want to give you an idea. When Internet 1.0 came out, businesses were given an opportunity to take an analog presence, a physical presence, and have a digital presence, a global digital presence. And I want you to think about most websites, even today, after 35 years, most of them suck. They don't do much. They're just basically digital brochures. I want you to think about the mobile web when the iPhone came out. Businesses had an opportunity to reimagine experiences on an entirely new screen, on an entirely new device. And for the most part, what we did was take the existing web presence and adapt it to a smaller screen. Social media, we didn't really disrupt it much. We use it for marketing and we use it for some customer service. But generative AI is actually going to force a completely, not even just generative AI, every wave now from here on out is going to push us further and further from the status quo. So what I'd like to leave you with is just an understanding that the soft skills, when AI can do the things that humans can do today, pretty good, tomorrow maybe better, is how do we become the orchestrator of a new technology to unlock new possibilities? How do we think of the questions? How do we think of the possibilities? How do we think of the collaboration in ways that improve the core and explore the realm or the art of the possible? So, Amit, I'll just kind of stop there. I'll share some top level notes that I wrote out for the community. I'll share them with you to share with everyone. And then if you have questions following this, Amit can share my contact information.
Great.
I have a question, if it's okay.
Okay, last one, and we will summarize the session.
Okay, so I would like to know, as head of global innovation at ServiceNow, how is the main notion of the book, or how is the perception of Mindshift is applied at ServiceNow, if it has, and if you can give an example. I know there is an AI layer of the platform of ServiceNow and also AI agents, but has the company made the shift? And if so, if you can give an example.
Well, yeah, thank you, Steve. In fact, Bill McDermott, who's our CEO and chairman, wrote the foreword for the book, and it's very inspiring. So I'll talk generally about, because Mindshift, it just came out. So other than Bill and maybe my boss, it's just now starting to circulate inside of the company. But Bill, the reason I asked Bill to write the foreword is because as our CEO, he is leading with this new mindset. He might not call it a mind shift, but it's just who Bill is. Bill is that leader who is looking at these disruptions, and he's reconfiguring how ServiceNow goes to market as a result. So we've integrated AI. It's called Now Assist, but he's also looked at what do we do beyond just introducing generative AI on top of what we do today. So we introduced an entirely new database system around like RaptorDB, a new data fabric. What he's basically saying is, we're not pitching digital transformation, we're pitching business transformation. And in order to transform your business, you have to connect the dots inside of your business. And in order to connect the dots inside of your business, that's a workflow from HR to IT to finance. So these previously siloed organizations now have the ability to connect their work through flows, which then connects the data within the organization into one system that creates essentially a platform for that business to operate differently. So that is an example of how someone like Bill has said, we can't have these discrete products now catering to the silos of the organization. We now have to help the organization transform, because for AI to thrive, you need the data. And siloed data only allows that silo to improve. Now we're connecting the dots to help the business improve. And that's a mind shift for the customer. to think about their business as a connected enterprise now. That's a bigger conversation to have. And it's one that we're starting to have with companies now.
A centralized database has existed before.
Right, but not with silos, right? Companies still operate independently. So IT services, for example, does not work with HR services on one system, in one connected workflow, in one screen. So the employee has to do a bunch of different things today, which distributes the data. And sure, you could put that data in a lake or what have you and try to get systems to mine it. But what we're introducing is essentially an operating system now that makes the business work together. That requires not just architecture and technology, but here, like, how do you want to transform your business? If it could be optimized from the employee's perspective, for example, or the customer's perspective, how would you do it differently? And so this is leading to some real powerful conversations with technology leaders in particular, because a lot of times they're the decision makers, is how do you want to rethink your business? And how do you want to rethink your role in transforming the business? Very powerful moment.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. So respecting your time, Brian, I'm sure you need to rush to your first half of the day. It's 7 o'clock over there in Central Pacific.
Yes, my day is it's getting started. We're also getting ready to celebrate our Thanksgiving holiday here this week.
Oh, so happy holiday. So I'll just finish. I'm sure that there is lots of great questions, and I hope that we will have the opportunity to invite Brian to Israel in the upcoming year or so. I just want everyone to know that in 2007 we had a great experience when purchasing a bulk books from Brian with his then new book X. Today, in this last week, we've ordered 50 books for a couple of colleagues in Israel here that already ordered the book. So if someone wants to join the next purchase, just drop me an email. There is the email here on my slide, and we will be happy to help you get a copy of his book. Thank you very much, Brian, for your time. It was great as always, and see you soon, I hope.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And thank you everyone for your time today. I'll share my notes with you, Amit, to share with everyone. And I appreciate the opportunity to share my work with you. If you do read the book, I'm easy to find. I'd love to hear your thoughts because this is a time where there is no playbook for the future. And I think together we can write it. So I look forward to collaborating with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
guys. Thank you, everybody. Have a quiet evening. Thank you so much.